It's Christmas time again, and this year we're going to bring home a box full of critters. Oh, excuse me. I guess I should call them gremlins. I've already covered a few of Joe Dante's works by now, like Piranha, The Howling, and of course, Small Soldiers. Today we'll be looking at his most famous movie. 1984's Gremlins was made during a time where combining the horror genre with comedy was considered popular among audiences. And it would be based on old World War II legends of mechanical failures in aircraft being caused by little monsters, which itself was parodied in pop culture of many kinds.
Let me take a whack at it.
At first, the idea for the movie came from filmmaker Chris Columbus, who would create a spec script to show to potential employers, which ended up landing in Steven Spielberg's hands. He considered Tim Burton to direct, before getting Joe Dante after his experiences directing The Howling. He also got Michael Finnell, known for working with Dante, to act as producer, and together with Amblin Entertainment and Warner Brothers, they set out to bring the creepy creature flick to life. There would be plenty of drafts, which for reasons we'll get to later, that were a lot darker than what we ended up getting, and many were either changed or removed entirely. But it all worked out somehow, and what we got is a movie with just the right amount of creepy horror and wonderful comedy. So check your clocks, hide your food and your water, because here come the Gremlins.
Friends, let me introduce myself. Peltzer's the name, Rand Peltzer.
Hi, Randall. Are you our narrator? Not quite, but he is voiced by the late Hoyt Axton, who was a country singer before becoming an actor. While in Chinatown, looking to sell stuff and find a Christmas present for his son, a small boy leads him to his grandfather's shop. Mr. Wing, played by Key Luke, isn't amused by Randall's attempt to sell him the bathroom buddy.
And you push this button. That's no problem. That's absolutely no problem.
I do love his voice delivery, though he makes for a poor inventor. He then overhears some strange sounds coming from a nearby box, and is fascinated by what's inside. The boy calls it a mogwai, which is Cantonese for monster or evil spirit.
With mogwai comes much responsibility. I cannot sell him at any price.
But the child sneaks the box out to Randall to sell, and he mentions 3 rules to follow. Rule 1, do not expose the mogwai to light, especially sunlight, which will kill it. Rule 2, do not let it come in contact with water. And Rule 3, the most important of all, never feed it after midnight.
You got it?
Sure, kid. Whatever you say. Hey, listen, thanks. And have a Merry Christmas.
Oh yeah, did we forget to mention that it's Christmas? Because the movie sure won't let you forget. I think Indiana Jones is gonna have some words to say to Ricky Rialto. Anyway, this is Kingston Falls, Pennsylvania, where everyone is getting into the festivities. By the way, if the set for Kingston Falls looks familiar to any of you, that's because it was shot at Courthouse Square, formerly Mockingbird Square, a backlot located at the Universal Studios lot in Universal City, California, which would end up being reused for the town of Hill Valley in Back to the Future the very next year. We get introduced to Sheriff Frank Riley, played by Scott Brady, commenting on Alex's questionable tree-selling methods.
Ow! What the hell is this? Pete, what are you doing in there?
Don't ask.
That has to smell, prick a lot, or both. Now for our main character, Billy Peltzer, played by Zach Galligan in his first film role. He has trouble starting his car, and although his neighbor, Murray Futterman, played by Joe Dante regular Dick Miller, offers to jumpstart it, Billy decides to just walk to avoid his hate for foreign cars. And I don't know why, but I have a craving for Burger King right now. Billy works at a bank, and I guess they just let him have his dog, Barney, with him so long as he's leashed. One of his co-workers is Kate Beringer, played by Phoebe Cates, who mentions a certain someone is up to no good.
We're trying to have Dory's pub declared a landmark. Mrs. Deagle's trying to take his lease away. She says it's a dive, a public nuisance.
That's where my dad proposed to my mom, you know.
That's where everybody's dad proposed to their mom.
Must be a close community. And speaking of Mrs. Deagle...
Good morning, Mrs. Deagle.
What's good about it?
Mrs. Harris, the bank and I have the same purpose in life, to make money.
So, Ruby Deagle here is played by Polly Holliday, who was Florence in both the sitcom Alice and the spin-off series Flo. She happens to own the bank after her late husband passed away. And she really is just Elmira Gulch, especially since she wants to murder Barney.
Maybe I'll put him in my spin dryer on high heat.
Barney!
She was asking for it. And don't give me that "I have a weak heart" bit when you quickly switch to threatening and insulting his family. She isn't the only one to treat him bad. We also have his co-worker, Gerald Hopkins, played by Judge Reinhold, who has to demean him for almost losing his job while also boasting how much richer he is once he takes over the bank.
You're practically supporting your whole family. The world's changing, Peltzer. You gotta change with it. You gotta be tough.
Doesn't mean you have to be a selfish asshole, you prick. By the way, the guy that Billy shows his comic drawing of Mrs. Deagle to is none other than legendary Looney Tunes animator Chuck Jones. That's frickin' cool. At home, we see that Billy's family likes to use a lot of his father's creations, even if they're crap. But I guess they aren't bothered, since they love each other that much. Dad presents the gift he bought, though if it's a living creature, maybe wrapping it up would be a bad idea. And upon opening the box, we see... Aw, it's adorable! This is supposed to be an evil creature? So the Mogwai, which Dad calls him Gizmo, with voice work provided by Howie Mandel, is one of many puppet creations by Chris Wallace, who would go on to create the visual effects for David Cronenberg's remake of The Fly in 1986. There were multiple puppets of Gizmo used, and many tend to break down a lot given their small size. This had one rather funny result for production, but never mind that for now. I love how Billy immediately takes a liking to Gizmo. At his age, I would imagine he'd be too cool or edgy to be liking something like Gizmo. Maybe that's why I like this guy more than Gerald, or that witch Mrs. Deagle. Of course, Randall doesn't tell them the rules until after Mom takes a picture with a flash camera. For the record, the mother is named Lynn, played by Frances Lee McCain. Now, Billy does act responsibly around Gizmo, and even enjoys his company as the latter sings along with Billy's Casio keyboard. He also seems capable of speech, somewhat. He's just so adorable, and I love how Billy takes care of him. It's almost like we're being lulled into believing that nothing bad is going to happen since... Really, how could anything happen with this creature? Well, hold that thought, because it's time for orange juice. Maybe Dad shouldn't reinvent juicers when you know they won't work. Oh hey, it's the Tree Kid. His name is Pete Fontaine, played by Corey Feldman, who you might know as the voice of Donatello from the 1990 live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, and Pico from The Magic Voyage. He happens to know Billy, I guess. He gets shown to Gizmo, who certainly loves watching TV, and he too fawns over the little guy. He asks to hold it, but accidentally knocks over Billy's paintbrush jar, which spills water on Gizmo, and then...
What is it?
I don't know.
You know, I was worried Gizmo might have melted like the Wicked Witch of the West from just getting splashed with water. But no, as more of these hairballs fly off, they grow bigger, and now we have even more Mogwai.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new ones. Now can I have one?
Oh, I don't know, Pete.
Hey, look, that one's got a cute little stripe on its head.
Ah yes, that one will be really important later. Gizmo looks sad for some reason, but oh well, funny dad invention fail. He shows his father what happened, mentions how the striped one, named Stripe, acts as the leader of the 3 Mogwai that spawned earlier, though his dad seems interested in selling the Mogwai they just got, thinking it might be the next big thing, could even replace the family pet. But I think they took that literally, because that night, Billy wakes up to the sound of Barney being hanged.
Barney, who did this to you? Hold on, I'll get you down.
And believe me, that's not the worst thing that would have happened to Barney, had they not changed things. He thinks Mrs. Deagle did it, but can't really prove it. Anyhow, he takes one of the Mogwai to a middle school biology teacher, Mr. Hansen, played by Glenn Turman. Shows what it could do and asks if he could look more into what these things are. That night, Billy visits Kate at the bar, who was just seeing Mr. Futterman out after he had one too many drinks. But it's here we get exposition regarding the Gremlins, who were sent to mess with machinery back in World War II.
You know, they're still shipping them over here. They put them in the cars, they put them in the TV, they put them in the stereos and the radios you stick in your ears, they put them in your watches. They got little teeny gremlins.
And some gremlins even cause your video games to glitch. Yeah, this seems like they're making fun of conspiracy theorists, even if in this movie it ends up becoming true somehow. Of course, Kate explains that he's only like that because he lost his job, like many people. She also mentions how the holidays are a time where people tend to get the most depressed, and it even relates to whatever reason she has for not liking Christmas.
Say you hate Washington's birthday or Thanksgiving and nobody cares, but say you hate Christmas and everybody makes you feel like you're a leper.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
But it's nothing too serious, and they even agree to go on a date later. At school, Mr. Hansen appears rather evil as he goes to get a blood sample from his Mogwai.
Yeah, no, this is not gonna hurt.
Just a little prick.
Big guy like you, come on.
And almost like this movie is foreshadowing something, one of the movies that Billy watches on TV is the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1956. The Mogwai are getting hungry, but thankfully it looks like it isn't past midnight yet, according to his clock, so he brings them chicken. Only Gizmo chooses not to eat. At the classroom, Mr. Hansen leaves and, wait a minute, 2:21? Did that much time pass? Well, that's not good, because he left his sandwich near to where the Mogwai could get it. No doubt this will lead to... oh no. So yeah, next morning, all the Mogwai that ate that night have turned into these disgusting looking pods. According to Mr. Hansen, these are cocoons and the Mogwai are undergoing changes.
Like my mother.
Well, back at home, Lynn gets a call from Randall, who is currently at an invention expo. And wow, just look at all the cameos on display in here. There's the time machine from the 1960 George Pal movie in the background, the movie's composer, Jerry Goldsmith, right behind Randall, and look, there's even Steven Spielberg riding around with a broken leg, along with Robbie the Robot from Forbidden Planet. I also love that after a cutaway, the time machine has mysteriously vanished with people wondering what happened. It's a pretty neat scene while also showing just how outmatched Randall is as an inventor. At the bank, the mother character we saw earlier is begging Mr. Corbin to loan money to her family since Mrs. Deagle won't do it. Speaking of, she learns from Billy that Dad took Barney on vacation.
Better keep him behind locked doors, because if I catch him, he's in for slow death.
And I hope you get a fast one. At the rate things are going, during a biology film in Hansen's class, which is about hearts, the one inside the cocoon is beating fast. As all the cocoons begin cracking, Gizmo can only watch in horror as the creatures inside begin to emerge. As for Hansen, well, as class lets out, he noticed the box shaking and whatever was inside got out. He calls Billy over by phone and then goes to look for his Mogwai, but seems to be hiding from him. That and intentionally messing with him. Maybe a Snickers might help? Well, I guess Snickers really doesn't make you feel better. Billy arrives to find his corpse, with a little syringe pricked in his butt. Guess the Mogwai took it personally. Billy can only get a glimpse of the creature's hands as it eats a glass vial before it escapes an event. Since it attacked him while reaching for the phone, he goes to get first aid, but... oh snap, we traded a furry creature for a scaly monster. That's not good. And to think we have more at home, and they're tormenting Gizmo. The kicker is that, as mentioned about Gizmo's puppet breaking down constantly, according to Joe Dante, this scene of them throwing darts at Gizmo was one of a few on the crew's list of horrible things to do to Gizmo. That's horrible! Gizmo didn't deserve this treatment, even if he is just a puppet. Sensing that something is wrong, Mom grabs a kitchen knife and goes upstairs just as Gizmo is tossed into a laundry chute. As she finds the empty cocoons, Billy manages to call her and warn her about getting out of the house, but the call is cut short. One of the creatures plays "Do You Hear What I Hear" on the record player, and like earlier, they seem to mess with her. They throw glass at her, and all she can do is try and look for where it came from. The intensity increases as she finds one of them visibly eating her gingerbread cookies. Really love the puppetry on display, as every movement makes them feel as real as they can be. She manages to kill one in the mixer, but oops, another one starts throwing plates.
Get out of my kitchen!
Well, it can't now, because you stabbed the shit out of him. She kills another one by spraying it in the face with flea and tick killer, and then stuffs it into the microwave, blowing it up. I do love how she at least gets to kill some of the creatures before she's caught off guard. And had this been an earlier draft, she would have been decapitated with her head rolling down the stairs in front of Billy. Subsequently, Barney would have been killed as well and even eaten by the creatures. Probably a worse fate than what Deagle had in mind. Anyhow, Billy returns and saves his mom by using one of their family's swords to cut its head off, which lands right into the fireplace. However, one remains, and sure enough, it's Stripe. Now voiced by legendary voice actor Frank Welker, best known for voicing Megatron from Transformers, Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget, and Fred Jones from Scooby-Doo. He makes a run for it, meaning Billy has to go after him, but first he drops Mom off at his doctor neighbor's house. He also makes sure to get Gizmo before leaving, because you can't leave Gizmo behind. They track down Stripe at the YMCA and get attacked by him. And unfortunately, Billy is unable to stop him from jumping into a swimming pool and begin the ultimate multiplication. He tries to warn Sheriff Frank, but like most movie cops, he doesn't believe him. That is, until he shows him Gizmo. Although now they just feel unimpressed since they yet to learn what can actually happen. Then the calls come in.
Oh. Yeah, sure. We'll be right over. The Footermans. Something about a snowplow.
And now it's time to talk about what happened between these two scenes. Stripe and his newly birthed brethren begin marching through the town, courtesy of stop-motion animation, then start their chaotic destruction. Starting with Murray Futterman and his wife, Sheila, played by Jackie Joseph, as the creatures mess with their electronics, and when Murray goes outside to see what's up, he discovers his TV antenna destroyed, and then when he starts to hear noises coming from nearby, we get the movie's iconic theme song, The Gremlin Rag.
Ah! There's a real gremlin in my cave! Ah!
And you would think they might have died here, but nope. We get a William Shallert cameo, who along with Mr. Anderson get attacked at a mailbox. We also see one mess with traffic lights, so cars crash into each other, and then they arrive at Mrs. Deagle's house, except she looks nothing like she did before. I guess maybe she wears a wig, but I think even her face is different. Oh, and all her cats are named after different world currencies like Kopek, Ruble, and Dollar Bill.
Oh, they've come for me!
Oh, so you knew that your actions were hell-worthy? Well, too bad. One of them got in and plays a nasty prank with her stair lift. That was as satisfying as Elvira's death in Deadly Friend. Frank and Deputy Fry are naturally shocked by what's going on, and not only fail to notice that one of them cut their brake cable, but also lend no help whatsoever when the Gremlins start attacking Santa Claus. Hell, I think Pete is more useful than these goobers. He actually shoots one with a slingshot and causes another to fall from a light fixture.
Christmas, what the hell's going on? Shut up with your Frank!
Crazy drunk driver.
Billy manages to get his car running and heads toward the bar where Kate is, while Dad is trying to sell his new ashtray to some guy. Not sure what point this serves, so let's just head to the bar. If there's one thing that makes these guys so damn great, is that they each seem to have their own chaotic personality. Seriously, they're like a bunch of live-action Tex Avery cartoon characters. They live for their own amusement, and they don't care who gets hurt or killed in the process. Though not everything involves death. Oh, and what do you know? I guess Deagle was wearing a wig if one of the gremlins has it now. This scene goes on for quite a bit, and there's even this one gremlin who acts like the serious film noir loner detective type before eventually getting in on the act. Was there a list of things the crew wanted to do with these guys that they had to get creative with the puppets? Kate tries getting away by using a flash camera to stun them and almost gets shot by one of them. Billy shows up in the car and he tries getting her out. Except now the car won't run. They're forced to go on foot as the gremlins take over the entire town. It's utter madness. Billy gives Kate the rundown about what's going on, and she decides now is the time to explain why she dislikes Christmas. When she was 9, she and her mom waited for her dad to come home, and he never did. Then, days after Christmas, they smelled something in the chimney, and when they got the firemen to check, they found his corpse. Seems he wanted to play Santa and surprise his family, but broke his neck while going down.
And that's how I found out there was no Santa Claus.
Ha! This bit is actually a famous urban legend that had been around for years and was incorporated into the script, but studio execs wanted it removed because they didn't know whether this was sad or funny. But Dante managed to keep it in because it's both. The whole movie can have moments that come off as sad or horrific, given the horror factor on display, but a lot of it comes off as humorous, so it fits as some backstory to Kate's character. Looks like things have calmed down outside, as the gremlins may have hid from all the bright lights, and indeed, they all went to watch a re-release of Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs at the movie theater. See, Disney? Why remake all your classic animated films when you can just re-release them instead? The Gremlins would surely appreciate it, and probably won't want to kill you. Oh look, one of them even has a pair of Mickey Mouse ears on. I wonder how much Spielberg had to spend to get permission to use all this. Billy and Kate decide they should use the time to set up a trap to kill the Gremlins while they're distracted. They head to the boiler room, which is behind the projector screen. But Stripe, who went to get popcorn, smells candy from across the street outside the theater.
Yum, yum.
Good for him, because Billy releases the gas and sets some cloth ablaze. The gremlins see them and give chase. And I do like how the projector screen shows their shadows in a choppy manner, and to show just how many are after them, using some pretty effective hand-drawn animation. Once they barricade them inside though, our heroes get away before the big explosion. And they burn. However, only Stripe remains, and they chase him into the department store he was in. Billy hands Gizmo to Kate and asks her to find a light switch while he goes after Stripe. Aww. Billy arms himself as he looks around in the dark. Tension mounts, as Stripe could be anywhere. Literally, he shows up on the TV screens and even calls him by name. Damn, Frank Welker, you scary. And of course, he was hiding behind E.T. the whole time. In Kate's attempt to get the lights on, she turns on a water fountain, and Stripe manages to find more things to throw, including saw blades. Gizmo seems to run off, while Billy gets injured with an arrow to the arm. Stripe then breaks out the chainsaw, but here comes Gizmo in a little toy car. Well, actually, it's Kate to the rescue, as she managed to get the lights on at last. Yeah, no Chainsaw Man theme for you. He spots water, he spots a handgun, let's put them together somehow. Randall is still off being unimportant as he's driving through town and now learning what's going on.
Marines are standing by with fire hoses.
Oh crap, that's not gonna help at all. Barney runs into the store and follows Gizmo as Billy confronts Stripe at the water fountain in the garden department. And he starts shooting at Billy with the gun. Damn, he is one psychotic little bastard, isn't he? And just as he puts his finger into the fountain, and his back starts to bubble up with more gremlin spawn, ew, Gizmo rides in, and... well, that did nothing. So, originally, Gizmo and Stripe were meant to be one character. I guess it would have followed the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde formula, by having a creature that starts out good but turns evil by transformation. Though as it is, having them be separate still works because Stripe could be like the personification of evil opposite to Gizmo's good nature. That, and if Mogwai really are meant to be like evil monsters, then Gizmo is everything a Mogwai isn't, and that's probably due to whatever Mr. Wing and his grandson did with him. And so Gizmo opens a skylight which lets all the sunlight in and slowly kills Stripe, thereby interrupting his spawning attempt. Ooh, nasty. And just as it seemed like his skeleton could still go after them, that just melts too. Nearly had me, movie. And once they get home, the Anchorman gives his theory on what happened in this town.
Where officials are now blaming mass hysteria.
That's what they all say. They get a surprise visit from Mr. Wing, who is not happy with what happened, so he's come to take Gizmo away.
You do with Mogwai what your society has done with all of nature's gifts.
You are not ready.
I mean, in fairness, most of this happened by accident. If anything, Stripe did most of the work, though I guess Hanson might have got one of them mad for potential abuse. But Mr. Wing does let Gizmo say goodbye to Billy, and acknowledges that he might be ready for Mogwai one day, and the Mogwai will be waiting. And with a parting invention from Randall, the two head off into the night.
Before you call the repairman, turn on all the lights, check all the closets and cupboards, look under all the beds. There just might be a gremlin in your house.
So that was Gremlins, and it is everything I could have hoped for. A good mix of creepy monsters and some good humor. It's like the movie changes with its creatures. Starts out peaceful with just Gizmo, then they multiply and the creatures display bad behavior. And then they become true monsters and everything gets chaotic. The way the sets are designed to take advantage of the dark to complement the creatures just work perfectly with how the Gremlins operate. Any limitations to the puppets are bypassed and you still get that funny yet creepy vibe from the reptilian form. Jerry Goldsmith's score also works well to match the Gremlins' sense of humor, especially with the Gremlin rag, while still building suspense when either revealing them or waiting to spring them onto us. While some characters seemingly get left behind, like Pete, the people Mrs. Deagle harmed, like the Futtermans, or even frickin' Gerald, more on him in a moment, the rest of the cast at least left good enough impressions that I didn't want harm brought to them. Plus, the story does well with how easily people can take advantage of something just to make money, without realizing the dangers for breaking rules. Bringing up the early drafts makes me wonder how far Dante would have gone with some of the deaths. Besides the ones with Barney and Lynn, the Gremlins would have invaded a McDonald's and eat the people there. Also, in terms of deleted scenes, Gerald was supposed to have more to do with his subplot of wanting to run the bank as he locks himself into the bank vault while Mr. Corbin is killed by the Gremlins. Yet he goes insane for thinking Billy is trying to take advantage of him. It's like they kept taking out some of the darker elements that were too creepy to have initially. Deleted scenes aside, despite the movie gaining a PG rating by the Motion Picture Association of America, complaints were made by parents about all the violence in it, along with another movie released that year, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Having a hand in both movies, Steven Spielberg suggested a new rating for movies too violent for PG, yet not violent enough for an R, and thus 2 months after Gremlins' release, the PG-13 rating was created. Still, the movie came out just fine, and it managed to gross $213 million at the box office on an $11 million budget, coming in second behind Ghostbusters in its week at release. It definitely made a killing in merchandise sales, no doubt thanks to Spielberg keeping Gizmo a separate character, and inspiring similar movies like Critters, Ghoulies, and Hobgoblins. There was the sequel film, Gremlins 2, The New Batch, in 1990, that wasn't received as well as the first, though it was also a parody of the first movie. Then in recent years, Gizmo and the Gremlins have appeared in commercials for both BT Business and Mountain Dew Zero, along with Zach Galligan back as Billy, and Warner Brothers even decided to release a prequel cartoon series on their streaming service, Max, in 2022 called Gremlins Secret of the Mogwai. Truly, the original film still has a lot of cultural significance, like many other horror comedy classics before and after it. But will there ever be a third Gremlins movie? Who knows? If anything, I'm happy with even just the first movie. It's equal parts creepy and funny, and worth watching during the holiday season. Hey, what the?
Isaac.
Nice try, fellas. Oh, Loki! Anyway, I'm the Media Hunter. Media's my prey and reviewing them my way. And all of you have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year.